Something went terribly wrong with my streaming recording software, and it suffered a fatal error. And we're back. But yeah, I got no clue. I guess this means we do need to move on.
I think it's time to start the conspiracy theories about, like, somebody somewhere. We cut them off. Now, cut them off. End button.
End button.
Because it's getting pretty spicy out there.
It was getting a little spicy, but we're still not done with the spice. So let's keep going.
No, we're not. All right, buddy. Let's do this.
So, time to go into the news that you may have missed. So, from the BBC, Trump, judge orders release of redacted search court papers. A U.S. judge has ordered investigations to release a redacted version of court papers to use to justify a search of ex-President Donald Trump's Florida home. The public version of the affidavit, a court document that includes evidence presented by prosecutors, could reveal new details about the inquiry, to reveal how much of a sham it was. The Department of Justice opposed releasing an unredacted version amid its ongoing investigation. The FBI search was a part of a probe into the potential mishandling of documents that is bogus. And of course, Mr. Trump has denied wrongdoing and insists that the classified files that investigators say were found at Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach had already been declassified by himself. On Thursday, Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart ordered the affidavit to be released with redactions by noon on Friday. So, it's good that they're ordering it to be released, but it's kind of too little too late. The public has been speculating for a few days now.
Yeah.
And everybody who is in the know knows that this was absolute garbage.
Yep. Enough places that I've looked into. It's basically a fishing expedition. That's what this always was.
Yeah.
The idea that he had classified documents was a cover. That was all it was. All right, but I think it's good news. I hope that this leads to at least the pieces that are needed for the fall, when Republicans take over the House, so they can do a proper investigation. Because I really do believe that what is the name of the Attorney General of the U.S. Merrick Garland?
Merrick Garland, yeah.
Merrick Garland needs to be impeached, removed, and I think the FBI, there needs to be a very serious look into that entirely.
All right, let's keep going.
All right. We're doing the Megyn Kelly FU, right?
Yep.
All right. So for Blaze Media, FU Fauci, a little spicy. Megyn Kelly deconstructs every one of Dr. Anthony Fauci's lies in a brutal takedown. By the way, Megyn Kelly is amazing. I really do enjoy watching her go. So Megyn Kelly ripped White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci on her podcast Wednesday, reacting to Fauci's announcement that he will step down from government before the end of the year. The former Fox News anchor blasted Fauci, who told CNN earlier this week that he will certainly reconsider testifying before Congress after he steps down from his role at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So the Republicans have promised that they're going to hold him accountable. He sounds like he's been invited to afternoon tea at one of our houses, Kelly said on SiriusXM's The Megyn Kelly Show podcast. F you, Fauci. You don't get to say whether you go. You get a congressional subpoena. You show up, and you get the Steve Bannon treatment. Yeah, go Kelly. Steve Bannon, the former strategist to President Trump and media personality, was found guilty of criminal contempt of Congress for refusing to answer a subpoena to testify on the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. So basically, Megyn Kelly just let him have it. I'm not sure if you can play a bit of the clip.
He sounds like he's been invited to afternoon tea at one of our houses. I will consider it. I'll consider it. Only if it's oversight, because what I experienced was personal attacks. I will go if it's true. Fuck you, Dr. Fauci.
Whoa! Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly. I think she's not alone. I mean, we saw Ron Paul. No, I'm sorry, Ron DeSantis.
And Ron DeSantis.
And Ron DeSantis and Megyn Kelly. Enough people are like, no, what is true, that Dr. Fauci is no hero. He is the villain.
Yes.
This is why he was the douche of the year.
Douche of the year, 2 years running.
Years running. I'm kind of interested to see who the douche of the year is this year.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of prospects, but we haven't nailed anybody down yet. And Fauci is kind of out of the running now because he's been pretty silent up until he announced that he was going to resign.
Yeah,
But the
we'll see
person
some-
who did this might be a potential candidate. Marjorie Taylor Greene's house targeted and swatting call for the second night in a row. Officers early Thursday morning responded to a call received in what appeared to be a suicide crisis line from an internet chat. So, Greene's home was targeted in a swatting call for the second time in 2 nights in Rome, Georgia, confirmed on Thursday. Officers responded once again to Mrs. Greene's home and confirmed this was the second false report. Rome PD said in a statement provided to Rolling Stone. Greene earlier on Thursday announced that she had been swatted again following an initial swatting earlier Wednesday morning at her home in Rome, Georgia. Swatting is a harassment tactic. It's more than a harassment tactic. It's actually like it's really dangerous. People can die.
People have died. People have died doing those things.
In which an individual falsely files a report with law enforcement about their target with the intent to prompt law enforcement to mobilize a contingent of armed officers to the address or location of the target. The term is a reference to SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics Units in law enforcement. Rome PD indicated in a statement around 3 a.m. on Thursday morning. Officers responded to a call received on what appeared to be a suicide crisis line from an internet chat. A police report provided to Rolling Stone notes the person who placed the call advised they came out as trans and claimed they shot the family. Police say they informed Greene at her door as to why they had been called. And the reason that they're doing this to her, it's people who are promoting the trans agenda, because Marjorie Taylor Greene has proposed a bill in Congress that will make it, or the proposed bill will make it so that no child across the country of the United States can have gender reassignment surgery, bottom surgery, top surgery, or hormone therapy. And that bill would be very, very good. But of course, the LGBTQ mob, the trans mob, and the leftist agenda hates that. And so they are coming at her with all of their might. And thankfully, she's staying strong. She's not one to apologize. She's not one to back down. My admiration for Marjorie Taylor has gone up quite a bit this past year.
Nothing but respect for her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. All right. So next story is from Rebel News. Petition calls on feds to end vindictive codes denying EI benefits to those terminated over vaccine mandates. Constitutional experts call the move not in line with case law, arbitrary, and used to advance a political agenda. So, by the way, if anybody doesn't know, in Canada, EI is basically a system that you pay into in order to kind of give you employment insurance benefits or money in case you lose your job. But the Canadian government has basically made a rule saying that if you are fired or if you're released or let go because of a vaccine issue, then you are not eligible for your very own money. This is your money that you are putting away in order to be able to support yourself. But the Canadian government has made it impossible for a lot of Canadians to get it. So, Union Representative Dan Jansen has launched a petition urging the Trudeau Liberals to end the use of vindictive employment insurance codes put in place to prevent equitable access to the social safety net that all gainfully employed Canadians are forced to pay into. Employment insurance is really talking about like how it works. As of October 15, 2021, Employment and Social Development Canada gave employers instructions on how to issue employment codes that denied individuals their ability to access the social safety net that they pay into, targeting those found to not be compliant with the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. So again, this is what happened and is still active today. What the government has done is basically they have put a gun to your head and said, hey, if you lose your job because you won't take a vaccine, you will not get the secondary backup, which is the employment insurance. This is all a vindictive and very tyrannical effort to try to basically make people desperate so that they'll get the vaccine. This is why our government in Canada is far worse than the government in the US. We're doing this to our own people, and it's horrible.
Yep.
New guidance states that if an employee doesn't want to report to work because they refuse to comply with a mandatory COVID vaccination policy, employers are to use code E, quit, or code N, leave of absence, when an employee is suspended or terminated for not complying with a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy. I use code M, dismissal. So the Justice Center has put out a press release condemning the federal government's action, or it's not in line with case law. Basically, this is political science, not like
It was.
actual science. So basically, I haven't read this whole thing, but basically this guy is trying to draw awareness to what is going on. And by the way, there are a lot of like legal challenges all over Canada for travel mandates, for the ArriveCan app, for the EI discrimination, for like the health ministers lying and withholding evidence. Canada right now is way beyond the States in that we are still we have all sorts of mandates and all sorts of things that are still in place that people are still being hurt by. So yeah, this is something that's happening. It's something that we're hoping will change. I don't doubt that and what do you call it? Petition is good, but petitions are not going to be enough in the future. We need to have some stronger action to overturn these things. All right, Stephen, take it away.
Yep. All right. So from True North, pronouns called Agricultural Canada systems to crash.
Cost.
So, a federal department's decision to add gendered pronouns identifiers to its internal communications and remote work software caused the Children's to crash and display errors. On July 18th, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada decided to introduce pronouns to Microsoft Teams and Outlook to further their commitment to diversity and inclusion. Their use of pronouns such as they, them is a common practice amongst the LGBTQ+. AAFC had already introduced pronouns to its internal employee directory, a move that earned the department a nomination for the 2022 Public Service Pride Awards. After introducing pronouns to MS Teams and Outlook, there were technical issues that interfered with display names and prevented employees from accessing documents in online collaboration and searching for employees in MS Teams and Outlook, an AAFC spokesperson told True North. The crash called AAFC to reverse course and remove the ability to have employee pronouns displayed. To minimize the interruption to employees' day-to-day tasks, we temporarily removed the pronouns from MS Teams and Outlook. Yep. That's kind of just a... Smite!
The computer systems are like, oh, hell no! We're not going there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that video of that girl who's like saying her pronouns and her cat goes like whack right across her face. She's like, whoa. Like that is one smart cat. That is it.
The cat's got things down.
Yeah, and like it's nice to know that MS Teams and Outlook is a little bit.
Even though they're run by Microsoft, they're still based.
They're still based. Way to go. Way to go. All right, and final story is from the Counter Signal. Denial. Climate Change Minister on defense over trespass scandal. So this is a story I've been kind of following. Long story short, the federal government is breaking all sorts of rules in trying to basically set up the all these provinces for their coming environmental crackdowns. So here's where it starts. Trudeau's climate change minister Stephen Guilbeault is on the defensive, finally responding to Saskatchewan Minister Jeremy Cockrell's warning that federal agents could be arrested for trespassing on private land to take samples. Sounds innocent, but there's some very sinister thing going on.
Yeah.
I believe that we and Canadians are best served when we engage on the facts, not heated and misinformed rhetoric, writes Climate Change Minister Guilbeault, signed letter to Cockrell. Obviously, this is a very common leftist tactic. The second you get any criticism or pushback, cry victim. Help! Oppression! On August 11th, Environment and Climate Change Canada water scientists were taking samples alongside a highway in Penn, Saskatchewan on behalf of Health Canada. A landowner approached the scientists to inform them that they were in fact on private land, which is true. You cannot trespass on private land, but the federal government doesn't get that right. As previously reported by the Counter Signal, not one but several landowners, according to Minister Cockrell, have contacted the Saskatchewan government to raise serious concerns about Government of Canada employees in clearly marked Government of Canada vehicles trespassing on private lands. As for the farmers, they were told the federal climate change agents that they were testing water sources for pesticide nitrate levels on farms in the Pence, Mossbank, and Pilot Butte areas of the province. So they're basically, this is Jeremy Cockrell's thing, saying we demand explanation for this kind of outrageous behavior. And while Guilbeault does not deny that it was possible for Government of Canada employees might have trespassed, Guilbeault contradicts Cockrell's report on a farmer's account, outright denying that the agents weren't there to test nitrate levels. So basically, again, this is the government's tactic. The second you get pushback, you go right into gaslighting. Whoa, hold on. We weren't here.
It wasn't about that.
It was about something completely different. You're just
crazy.
Things. Yeah. So the story goes on. I encourage you to read it. But basically, what's going on in a nutshell? The government is sending a whole bunch of government agents to all sorts of places in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and they're basically going onto private land, private property, and taking samples in what seems to be an attempt to enforce or possibly find evidence to enforce their big crackdown on farms. So, if you remember correctly, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how the Liberal government is following the footsteps of the Netherlands, of the Dutch government, and imposing 30% restrictions
by
on
2030.
No, immediately. This is going to be immediately.
What?
They want to have massive restrictions on fertilizer usage, which and they want these things to be done like almost immediately, not by 2030. They're actually pushing this like in a very short timeline. Pretty sure. Anyways, but the important thing is, last week, I don't know if it was last week or Tuesday, we talked about how the Liberal government is building a building in Manitoba that's going to house pretty much interrogation-style facilities for environmental
enforcement agents.
Climate enforcement agents that are basically going to act like the Inquisition. This is going to be like a new version of the Spanish Inquisition in Canada. This is going to be the climate Inquisition. It's coming for you. And basically what they're going to do, and this is part of the big story, a big picture, the environment is just a pretext in order to enforce socialist policies to keep people from driving cars and to kill and basically to destroy economies. It's all a gigantic hoax intended to accomplish different goals than their stated goals. This is all part of their big plan. Don't believe a word of it. Yeah. The climate agenda is nothing more than a total cover for their real intentions. And that's the story we have missed this week.
It is. All right, so now let's finish up and let's jump into the douche of the week. All right, the douche of the week this week is a female Colorado social worker that is accused of making sexual advances towards at least 40 mothers, then basically removing their children from their care when they rejected her. Former Colorado social worker Robin Niceta is accused of making sexual advances towards women. She is then said to have threatened to take away the kids away of those who reject her. She was arrested in May for wrongfully accusing an Arapahoe City? I think so. Councilwoman of touching her son. Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky filed a lawsuit against Niceta for making false accusations on behalf of herself and about 40 other women. The former social worker would lure mothers over to her house by giving them her personal phone number and offering them gifts. So, who was a child protective worker, allegedly offered parents and caretakers alcoholic beverages and invited them to her home before making sexual advances, according to a $1 million lawsuit filed by Aurora Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky. She was also accused of attempting to silence her victims and their restraining orders by threatening to separate parents from their children and providing false complaints and the evidence to do so. So far, several parents have come forward to let us know they've also had their children taken away from them as a result of Robin Niceta's actions related to their cases, whether by what they believe to be false testimony during court, of what they believe to be false reports. Attorney Elliot Singer, who prepared the lawsuit, told the Gazette. One mother told Niceta told her she had gift cards for her and gave her a personal cell number and asked her to come to her home to pick them up. When the mother arrived, she was offered an alcoholic beverage that she denied. Once this member of the class declined what was clearly sexual advances, Niceta essentially turned on her and did everything in her power to make sure the child was permanently removed.
Wow.
So, yeah, just lovely. And of course, Councilwoman Jurinsky followed the lawsuit on behalf of 40 women that have spoken up about their experiences with Nisetsa. She was recently romantically involved with an Aurora Police Chief, Vanessa Wilson, who was fired in April after the former social worker falsely claimed Jurinsky sexually abused her son in an anonymous tip, according to the Gazette.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago we had that insane woman who basically she's from Canada?
Oh, the HR lady.
Oh, the HR lady. Do you remember her? Like, we talk to each other, and maybe you should think about what you post online. It's like, oh, this woman was literally like
beady eyes,
bug-eyed demon. Like she had vibes of the lady from Misery. You ever see that movie Misery with
No.
basically the woman who basically holds this author captive in his bed and basically breaks his leg so he can't run away and escape and all that.
Lovely.
It's brutal. Yeah, but this is so. Here's a couple of things that are important. Number one, the idea that people in positions of power, they would never abuse them or never take advantage of them. This is just not the case. There are many people all over, even in police services. I was told by a very reputable lawyer here in Calgary that knows all about criminal law and knows about how police operate. When I asked him for advice on a certain case, he basically told me you never talk to the police, not unless you have to, and not without a counsel present, because he's he had seen way too many examples, way too many incidents of people who thought, oh, maybe I'll talk to the police and that'll get me somewhere ahead. No, it resulted in the opposite. It did not help them at all. And the police are not your friends. The police have some other thing that they're trying to accomplish, and you're just the tool that they're using to be able to get there. And he told me that police oftentimes they get their convictions from confessions, and so they're going to try to get you to confess. So here's a woman in a position of power, totally using her position of power to completely and totally extort people into really horrible things. She's basically extorting people with their children.
Yes.
You think of something worse than that, Stephen?
Oh, no. Essentially what she's doing is she's trying to turn these women, these mothers, into prostitutes. She's whoring them out under threats that if they do not submit to her will sexually, then she will have their children taken away. This person was a pervert. They were a predator. And I hope that this person will go to jail for the rest of their life. Because even though it's not legally claimed as rape, this is in effect rape of those that she got sexually or romantically involved in, especially if they only became romantically or sexually involved with her once she gave them the threat.
Yeah.
So this is really, really dangerous stuff. But as we stated, this is what happens when you have unchecked power. And as the old adage says, power corrupts. And when you have that amount of power, somebody's going to abuse it. And this person did.
But I want to add something else to this. You're right. Power corrupts, all that kind of stuff. That's totally a factor here. There's something additional. If you notice, we've seen a lot of stories in the last couple of weeks of people on the left believing that they are not only entitled to whatever goal that they want, like that example of that one trans activist who Matt Walsh was going after, because that trans activist felt, I'm going to send puberty blockers and medications to children.
It's my job and my role that I should be the one to send these kids because, the government is not letting them transition, so I have to enable them to transition. I have to encourage them to transition.
Yeah, he knew it was illegal. He felt completely and totally entitled, and he felt.
And here, I'll just while you continue talking, I'm going to look up if there's been anything done with Eli Ehrlich.
Yeah. So this person, he basically he fully admitted that he was absolutely going to do this. He knew it was illegal. He felt that the ends justified the means. This is the common thread with most of these people. The ends always justify the means in their view. In their view, everything that they do is totally legitimate because they're doing it for like a good reason. Doesn't matter how many people are hurt. In this person here, this woman, I can't remember her name, Robin Laceta. This woman felt I'm going to get what I want, and everything I do in order to get there, it's okay because the ends justify the means. What does she want? She wanted sexual. She wanted basically to coerce people in order to basically satisfy a sexual desire or need that she had, and she was using power. If you remember correctly, we talked about I think it was Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. Obviously, those were the worst case scenarios, obviously. But what they did was similar. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, he basically coerced people, and he used his ways to try to get people to do things that they didn't want to do. And the end result is the same. These people feel, I want this. Everything I do in order to get this is justified. And that included separating children from their families in order to extort people. This is the kind of thing that these children are going to be traumatized for life. These parents are probably going to be traumatized for a long time. They're never going to trust the government again. And all of these people are basically, this woman is using children in order to accomplish a terribly evil thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, I know that some people won't agree, but a factor in this is the fact that this woman is gay.
She's lesbian.
She's lesbian. And I'm not saying that this isn't everyone who's lesbian.
Well, I think that her being lesbian is part of why the lawsuit is only for $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is responsible for 40 women.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of a lawsuit that involves 40 people that's only $1 million.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at okay, for example, look at what happened to Alex Jones.
Yep.
Alex Jones, all he did was say, he obviously made an opinion.
Made some out there claims, but still. Yeah.
But still, the actual damage done to the parents was fairly minimal. I mean, yes, trauma, everything like that. But the amount of trauma that these people have gone through, many of them had their children taken away.
Oh, it's hundreds of times worse.
Hundreds of times worse. The actual damage and the vindictiveness of this woman was hundreds of times worse than anything Alex Jones did. Alex Jones legitimately thought that the information he was getting about the Sandy Hook massacre was true. He actually thought that the information was legitimate, but it was wrong. Yeah. And so you can actually make a case that he was just mistaken.
Yes.
This woman knowingly and purposefully and intentionally went out of her way to ruin people's lives and to try to get sexual pleasure out of women. And if they don't, she wants to ruin their lives. This is a psychopath, actually.
Yeah.
Who actually did real world harm, and she's not getting even anywhere near the same kind of punishment. This also reminds me of a story that happened recently. They talked about it on Louder with Crowder. There's these people called pedophile hunters. They went and they found, and they basically they communicate with an online pedophile, and then they confronted them.
Yeah.
They confronted them they posed as children, went to meet this person. This person thought they were meeting a 9, a 5, or a 1-year-old. I'm not sure if all three, but at least one of them was
one of the above.
9-year-old. Okay, in order to have sex with them.
Yeah.
And when they confronted this person, the police actually turned on the people who were actually trying to entrap. And this person, as far as we know, as far as I heard last, hasn't faced any justice for this. This is the problem here, and the people who are in this community, in the LGBT community, whether you're a lesbian, whether you're a gay man, or whether you're part of the drag queens, you get special treatment. You're sacred. Yep. You don't get the same punishments or the same criticism or the same
sacred cow.
You're basically untouchable. You're basically
your crime has to be so substantial and then you will get the absolute most trivial, most minuscule punishment possible. Like, we all know, it was public knowledge. It was public knowledge. It was streamed live on television.
Mm-hmm.
The threat made from Zoe Tur to Ben Shapiro, but not a single charge could be laid, not because Ben Shapiro didn't try, but the police knew that the backlash from charging a transgender individual would be far more severe than the lawsuit from Shapiro.
Yeah. And if you put it all together, put all those pieces together, you get this woman. A woman who is so confident that her special status gives her a immunity from any kind of pushback, that she was convinced, I'm never going to be held accountable.
Yeah. Well, she's never going to be held accountable. She dated the police chief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's arrogance to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't care. Like, I'm dating the police chief. I am above the law.
Yeah. The law doesn't apply to me, and I'm completely, basically free of. This is the same. Okay, the worst case I've ever heard of this kind of fear of prosecution because of a special class was in England. There was a child sex trafficking ring. I forget how it was 1,200 children, wasn't it, Stephen? 1,200
I think so, yeah.
Kids. And this child sex prostitution ring had gone on for years. I think it was I don't know how long it was. It was years. It was I don't know, 7 to 12 years. It was a very long time. The police refused to look into it because they were Muslim. Because they were afraid of being labeled, racist. And as a result, 1,200 little girls, they were from 5 to 12 years old to 14 years old, were brutally raped and abused and sexually exploited for years. And the police refused to do anything. And all they can say is oh, we're sorry. This is the kind of culture that leads to this lady and led her to believe that she would never get caught. And sadly, this is only going to get worse because even this woman, who is pretty much obviously guilty of doing what she did, she's probably going to get a very lenient sentence because the system of justice in the United States and in Canada too is completely skewed, and they know it. But this woman is still evil. Yep. She deserves to be in prison for the rest of her life. And this is why I think she definitely deserves to be the
douche of the week. Yep.
This week.
All right. That's where we're going to end today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I understand the live stream. Well, I know the live stream was messed up. That was something that was completely outside of my control. I've never had my software crash on me like that before. So, something new. We tried to compensate as quickly as possible. We apologize. For those who are watching later on Rumble, BitChute, and YouTube, do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. Whole deal. If you're following us on our text platforms, of course, give us a like, give us a review, give us a comment, tell us how we're doing. And of course, ask us questions. We'll happily respond to anything you have. Or if you want to come on the show, we'll see what we can do. And following us on our podcast platforms, then like, share, and download it. And tell your friends. Because they could listen to something shrewd once in a while, I guess. All right, Danny, sign us out.
So we here at the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we love teaching facts. We love teaching you how to engage intelligently. And we love sharing information as it comes. And what we always like to tell our people is why be rude when you can be shrewd. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope to see you again next week for Tuesday News Day. And great show. And take it away, Steve.
Yep. All right. We'll see you Tuesday. Have a great weekend. And as always, God bless.
Good night.